to the State of the Pork Industry Report, brought to you by Neogen. Neogen provides a comprehensive range of solutions and services for the food processing, animal protein, and agriculture industries, not only helping to protect the world's food supply, but also enabling its customers to produce more efficiently and effectively than they could before. Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Shike, and I serve as the editor and brand leader for Farm Journal's Pork. I have the privilege of spending my days covering pork industry issues and news, as well as telling stories of the people in our industry and exploring topics to help the industry grow. In this episode, we will take a deeper look at sow and grow finish performance from MetaFarms between April 1st, 2024 and June 30th, 2024, and discuss what this could mean on the farm through the lens of our experts, Dr. Cara Haden, Adam Annegers, Randy Kuker, and Brad Eckberg. But before we jump into the data, have you guys been able to breathe yet this summer?
No.
You guys, but it's August. I definitely would like to have a week of staycation to just be here at home to catch up, because if I'm being transparent, my house looks like 3 tornadoes have been through it. And it's been busy around here. I just got done acquiring a new title that I like to joke about. I am the Fair Queen mom, and I have a pin to prove it that I've been wearing around this past couple of weeks. But my daughter was recently crowned Miss Champaign County Fair Queen, and it has definitely been a blur ever since. And I'm kind of joking around about it, but I'm not really. It's been a fairly intense schedule, and seems a little bit more ramped up than what I remember Fair Queen activities being back in the day. But it's been a lot of fun. And I think, as always, gives me an opportunity to kind of remember what people who aren't involved in agriculture every day think about and see when they kind of run into agriculture in some small way. So whether that's like talking to city folks in the pig barn, or whether that's walking around on the midway and trying to explain to people, what agriculture is. And so we've had a lot of fun. My daughter's heading off to college in just a few weeks. And so if I'm being honest too, I've been carrying around a Kleenex lately because it's just been a lot of big emotions at our house. And so, I know I'm not the only one who's been going through a lot of big changes. Adam, how's the preparation for the new baby going?
Well, we were able to put the crib together, strollers, changing tables, and we're still together and happy. So that's a big win for us. The people that design these things that you have to put together at home, I really think they should make it a rule that if you design it, you have to put the first one together so you can follow your own instructions. But outside of that, we were able to get it done, and September 7th is when due date is. So we're approaching that very quickly, and look forward to having a little baby again.
That'll be so much.
The crying and all that other fun stuff too, right?
That's right. That's right. The first month will be fun. Then after that, it'll be even better. So
a lot of yes dears. Good.
Yeah.
That's going to be awesome. Well, we are excited, and we can't wait to hear all about it and to find out if it's a boy or girl during our next episode. So,
well, that is, we decided not to find out. We just figured there was very few surprises left in life. So, baby Annegers is a question mark right now. So, but honestly, I'm ready to find out. I really want to know, but soon enough we will.
Does your family have like a gut feeling? Is more girl or more boy feelings?
I'm definitely the loner here, where I think little boy and everybody else thinks little girl. The last little girl in our family is 20 years old right now, so everybody is really pulling for a little girl.
Well, we are super excited for you. Cara, I know you guys have a very exciting event that's going to be taking place at your house fairly soon. So tell us about it.
Yeah, well, a couple years ago, my husband and I, so we have 4 kids, and we bought a 45-acre farm and decided that we want to do some ecotourism type activities. So we are hosting a fall festival. We have 1,300 pumpkin plants growing in the field right now, and we are getting activities ready to hopefully host a whole bunch of people and celebrate fall and harvest at our house. So I'm not sure why we're doing this, but we're doing it.
I don't know how you find the time.
Yeah, I don't know that it's maybe the wisest thing we've ever done, but I do think it's going to be fun to have our community over and enjoy fall a little bit. So yeah, we've been busy with that. And then we've had interns this summer at Pipestone, and I love working with students. We're doing some really fun welfare related projects. So summer's been busy, but so much good stuff.
Great. Brad, anything new going on in Louisville?
Well, I complained last year to the wife, unfortunately, that I didn't think I had enough to do. So she's really piled it up this year. And like you said earlier, I can't believe it's already almost August. So yeah, definitely try and take a deep breath. But just got back from the Black Hills with the family. My mom and brother and sister and their families got back last week. So that was kind of fun. And it's been about 20 years since I've been there, so it was a lot of fun trip. Thank God we didn't kill each other on the way back or the way there. It was a long drive, but it was definitely worth it.
What was the best part?
Honestly, it was probably just the fact that we were all together under one house, and for the most part, the devices were off, and we just kind of shoot around, shooting the breeze, and having a few cocktails and telling good old stories, and just good old family time. Old school.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think that was my favorite part of the COVID pandemic situation, was just like kind of just being forced to just all be together, and like having every family meal together was kind of nice. This week we sat down finally last night, and we were like, wow, we have not all sat down for a meal for a very long time. So summer fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. And so I hear that one of us is going to go into Six Flags. Randy, what's happening with your family?
Yeah, we're trying to plan a trip here in the near future before school starts. So we're going to take the two younger boys that we have, 10 and 13, and some of the older ones might straggle along with us and check out Six Flags before the school year starts. And we've got one crop of calves weaned and sold, and we got another one we're going to do here, probably wean them in August and sell in September. So that keeps me busy. And then my better half is putting together a curriculum for the boys that she homeschools. And so I kind of let her do that, and I try to nod and, yep, I support that. You're doing a good job, and let her do her thing. And so we're in full mode for school to start, and going to enjoy what we got left of the summer.
Sounds great. So you're saying that you're not really into building the curriculum. You don't really have any say in that?
I have a little bit of say, but she does a really good job, and I just try to stay out of the way. Try to mix in a little bit of pig knowledge here and there, but the boys aren't too receptive to that.
Hey,
I need a few field meat cropsy experts with me every once in a while.
I do it all the time. I always try to relate human illnesses to pig illnesses and stuff. Yep. So
you bet.
We like to use ear notching when it's like math time. It's only a certain time when that's impressive, right? But my youngest was having fun trying to explain to her teachers about ear notching and how that's a good use of her math skills. So lots of good things we learned from pigs. So speaking of which, one of the things I just really love about visiting with you guys is not only are you rock stars in the industry, but I really appreciate getting to watch you guys as parents, as leaders in your community, and great friends. I got to listen to Cara speak earlier this summer at a Women in Ag conference, and she was awesome. And I've written a few stories about that since then. If you guys haven't checked it out, you have to go check it out at porkbusiness.com. But it's just neat to see all the ways that you're impacting the world, not only the pork industry, but beyond. So I could just sit here all day and ask you guys questions about your lives outside of work, but I know that people are tuning into this because they want to hear about the numbers from Q2. So Brad, let's turn it over to you for an overview of the sow and the grow finish data highlights in Q2.
Yeah, thank you. I'll try not to go too deep into the weeds, but just kind of give a little bit of an overview of the Q2 2024 data. So looking at sow performance would be in that time frame of April 1st to June 30th of 2024, kind of comparing that to the same time period back in 2023. There's a lot of positives that we're going to see out there with the pigs weaned per mated female per year up 0.7 pigs, which in turn has shown improvements when it comes to the breed by 7 days. By almost a little over 1%. And then you've got where we're breeding less returns, which ultimately is giving us a higher farrowing rate. And then with that, obviously, then would be the total born alive numbers are both up nearly a half a pig each from the same time last year. So that really tells me from a sow standpoint that sow health in the first half of this year, which would be that January to February, March, probably a little bit in there when those sows are being bred, the health and sow farms within the MetaFarms database would be a little bit healthier than they were last year. A little bit of the sample size too, or just the size, the volume of our sow data would consist of about 400 sow farms and about a little over 1 million sows for the data and stuff. So areas of improvement, not sound like a broken record a little bit, but, premium mortality at 16.7% in Q2 2024. It is down nearly 1% from the same time period last year. Sow mortality did go up almost 0.5% again from the same time period last year and stuff. So, whenever I talk about production stuff, we like to talk averages. I know we'll get into percentiles here in a little bit, but looking at the percentile differences just a little bit, when looking at the top versus bottom 10%, you're going to see pigs weaned per mated female per year is 11 pig difference between that top 10% and the bottom 10%. And think about the top 40 farms or the bottom 40 farms throughout the system. Again, 11 pig difference, which is just huge, right? 3 pig total born pig difference. So just right out of the gate from a sow that is going to farrow, that top 10% has 3 more pigs available to make into a nursery pig. And then sow death loss, which is probably the biggest eye opener when you look at the top and bottom 10%, is a 17% difference. So 7% average for those top 10% mortality versus a 24% sow mortality for the bottom 10%. Transitioning a little bit over to the grow finish side. Again, this would be for closeouts that occurred in that Q2 timeframe of April 1 to June 30th of this year. We'll start off from some positives. Wean to finish mortality, which would be single stop groups only, went down for the third straight quarter over quarter comparison. Q2 2024 at 6.75%, which is down about 0.75% from Q2 2023. Mortality on finish went unchanged at 5.48 for Q2 2024, and nursery mortality did increase just slightly. We're at 4.06% in Q2 2024. And then I guess just from another thing that kind of stuck out a little bit, market weights continue to grow. Finishing and wean to finish groups that closed out in Q2 both went up right around 3 pounds each from the same time period last year. Pigs are definitely growing really, really well with average daily gain for finishing for Q2 at 2.02. So pigs are growing fast, they're more efficient, and looks like health is, if not improving, plateauing a little bit. So.
Great, thank you so much. I want to break this down. We've kind of picked about 5 areas to kind of take a little bit of a deeper dive into. And so just to reiterate, we see that the total born average for Q2 2024 was 15.6, and that's 2 pigs more than in 2015. So, Cara, I'd like to direct this to you. Having more pigs per sow is great for productivity and, eventually revenue. But what are some of the challenges with 2 more piglets per mom, and what can we do to give every pig a strong chance at survival in the farrowing house?
Yeah, absolutely. Increased numbers is a good thing for efficiency. It's a good thing for sustainability, but it is a huge challenge because in general, the more pigs that we get, the more we struggle with weights. And so that means that pre-wean mortality is going to be harder to achieve, to lower pre-wean mortality. We also have things like there's only a certain amount of colostrum in every sow. And when that colostrum has to get spread between 20 piglets instead of 16, that's just different. And we need to be able to manage that appropriately, or we're not going to have appropriate health in those pigs. So I think increased total born is a great thing, but it does pose more challenges for our caregivers in caring for those pigs.
Thank you. Another number that stood out to us was the cull percentage. So as you look at the cull percentage in Q2 2024 at 45.6%, that was down by 1.3% from a year ago. But basically, this rate does not fluctuate much when looking period over period. So Adam, what are some good rules of thumb when it comes to cull management, especially knowing that a financial break even for a gilt is at parity 3?
Yeah, so with that 45% in there, there's really multi-factored in there. You know, the elephant in the room is definitely PRRS and disease pressure. You know, and the end of last year and the beginning of this year, PRRS has been very, very active. So that 45% is really the minimum amount that you want to turn a commercial herd. And most of the sows that are in this data set are commercial. So multiplication farms want to be 65, 70%. You know, commercial farms, a minimum would be 45. But as multipliers have been experiencing health challenges, that really does put a kink in the wheel for replacement rates and gilt flow. So it's really a big circle, multi-factored. 45% on a commercial herd would be the bare minimum that you'd want to replace your sows with. So, you know, better health and figuring out this nasty PRRS and keeping farms healthy definitely help increase that. So when a farm does experience a PRRS challenge, we do end up keeping sows for another turn instead of bringing gilts in just from closures. And we could have a whole 2-hour conversation just on that subject. But keeping that at a high level and the minimum on it, 45%, really should be 50% probably. Just too many factors affecting that right now.
So we're also seeing that finishing weights are continuing to rise. Q2 2024 weights averaged 285.5 pounds, an increase of 2.8 pounds from Q2 2023. So 10 years ago, in 2015, finishing weights averaged 279.8 pounds, or 2% lighter than Q2 2024. Randy, how do you think animal husbandry practices have changed with the heavier finishing weights?
Yeah, that's it. That's a good question. I know guys are putting a lot of effort into startup feeding and they're extending out that marketing or waiting for those top cuts, and they're adjusting the marketing practices on the back end to try to push more market loads to the very end, so you don't have those tail enders that are, you know, your dump loads in the 250s, 260s. So wait until the last minute to try to get the last pigs off the truck. Better space utilization, making sure that you're utilizing all the square footage in the barn and giving all those pigs the best opportunity to grow. In our system, we have pretty much all wet dry feeders, and we've tried some different tactics, turning off water cups to try to get better feed efficiency during certain times of the year. We don't do it so much in the summertime when there's high heat and we're trying to drive water intake, but we've done some different things to try to drive that average daily gain and to drive those numbers to be more efficient, to put more pounds on those pigs. And we've had some pretty good success stories in doing that. But I can definitely see with the customers that we work with that with the better markets that we've got this summer, is they definitely want to drive pounds to the packer and take advantage of those weights now. And I foresee in the next couple months we'll start probably backing off on that a little bit. And we'll move back towards normal ranges here in the next probably 2 to 3 months. But that's been a big focus for a lot of our customers recently.
I'm going to skip over to mortality percentages. I know we talk about this a lot, but I think everybody, we're still trying to keep learning and understand how we can lower these numbers. But in Q2 2024 for nursery and finish combined, it was 9.54%, whereas Q2 2024 wean to finish groups closed out at 6.75%. So Adam, there's been a lot of discussion with what better practice of the two-stage production, nursery finish versus one stage, wean to finish is. What do you see with the pros and cons of these two types of production? What insights do you have there?
Yeah, so the sow guy answering a wean to finish question. This is going to be fun anyway. So see if we can get Randy. See if we can get Randy to come on. The really there's pros and cons to both the nursery flow, then on to the finisher, and then a wean to finish. But I think the big thing with the nursery is nursery folks are really just trained and spend a lot of time just starting baby pigs. So that could definitely be advantage of I'm just a baby pig specialist, getting those kids started. Just like in the farrowing house, that first 24 hours, after birth, that really sets that litter through the lactation period. Well, in the wean to finish barn, that first 24 to 48 hours after pigs are placed, that's also the most critical time to get pigs started, finding the feeder and hydrated. So it's more specialized care in a nursery barn. There is added expense, added cost, additional trucking, additional washing, additional labor. There's many other factors that involve that. The wean to finish barns, typically you're going to put more pigs in an airspace. So that can be a challenge as just pure numbers of pigs to look after. Is it more challenging for our caretakers to locate those pigs that may be hard starting or slow starting and getting action taken quicker? So definitely pros and cons to both. There's many successful systems that run both of them. So really it just comes down to, what can we get executed consistently day to day that really dictates which system would benefit you the most.
Okay, yeah,
I'd say you nailed it for a sow guy. I mean, you stole all my thunder. Every point that I was going to make, you took. So, you nailed it perfectly. Specialized care was where I was going to go with it too. Those guys, you've got guys that are used to starting a new group of pigs every 8 weeks. They tend to do better. Whereas with the growers that I have in wean to finish, they start, a new group of pigs once every 6 months. So my field staff and the guys on my team have to be pretty hands-on with recoaching those guys and training those guys. And we have quite a few of them that do a really good job with those wean pigs. Then the downside of, Adam said as well, would be, you got extra cost in transporting those pigs from one facility to another. So you've seen a lot of systems go away from it and just utilize the flexibility of the wean to finish barns. But I also know there's some people that we work with that are going back to building nurseries. And just some insight on that is a lot of, in today's current construction prices and with the inflation we're dealing with, guys are building newer nursery barns to replace old wean to finish buildings because they're more cost effective and they can actually cash flow them a little better and build them easier than they can build new wean to finish space. Now that might change here in the next year to 2 years or whatnot, but those are some of all those factors go into it, and I think we see cycles of we're going to try this model and then we'll switch to a different model later. But the specialized labor, or you got to have a good field staff that's capable to have the time to shuffle around the countryside and provide that extra assistance in starting those pigs.
Brad, I don't want to leave you out because I know that you've spent a lot of time in barns too. Any extra thoughts that you might want to add in on that?
I'd agree, Adam, for a sow guy actually did a pretty good job. So kudos to him. But really from a nursery finish versus a wean to finish, I mean, think about the pros and cons, obviously from an animal husbandry that's already been spoken about, but also from like a cost standpoint, right? And the pro of having a wean to finish barn is, hey, I could put those pigs in there and I'm not going to take them out, move those pigs, stress those pigs, for another 6 months potentially, right? to where they're established in their pen. Everything's kind of set straight within the hierarchy, and the feeders and the waters, and off those pigs go. So there's obviously that pro, but again, like kind of what Randy said, seems like a lot of systems are going back to that two-stage nursery finish combo. Obviously, there's pros and cons from a performance standpoint, and obviously from a financial standpoint as well.
Okay, well, let's move on to average daily gain. Q2 2024 finishing average daily gain averaged 2.02 pounds, which was a minimal increase from the same period last year, but a 7.4% increase from 2015. Obviously, nutritionists play a large role in maximizing pig growth while counterbalancing the financial side of things and pig health. But Cara, what do you think is the role of people in the barn when it comes to maximizing pig growth?
Oh, I think people in the barn are incredibly important. And so, I mean, so often when we talk about welfare and growth, I mean, you can have very similar facilities that perform very, very differently. And the only difference is the caregiver. And so I think from an average daily gain standpoint, caregivers that are going in and assessing the environment and making changes to make sure that the pigs are comfortable so that they're going to the feeders all the time. Caregivers that are checking feed and water and making sure that feeder settings are appropriate. Pigs can get the feed when they want to. Getting right on top of treatments in a timely manner. All of those things that are so dependent on caregivers can have huge impacts on things like average daily gain.
Randy, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I got a little nugget on that, I guess you could say. We went ahead quite a few years ago and added some technology, and we're using some bin sentry or bin sensors. And I go back to when I first got to the equity here 5 years ago, and we have Maximus technology in a lot of our barns. And I would go through the alarm logs, and I'd see a lot of out of feed events, bins go empty. And not only that, but we'd have, I'm connected with the feed mill. We'd see how many emergency orders that we had. And actually our feed order desk now manages the feed ordering for a lot of the sites that we manage. And so having that technology available to make sure that there's feed in the bins, the technology with one of our customers, which is Bin Sentry, has come a long ways, and they've got some really good notifications. They'll send out emails when you
Okay, so we talked about it a little bit earlier, but one of the things that I get excited about on the reports is I enjoy taking a look at the percentiles, and I think it's really interesting to be able to see. I mean, the differences are very dramatic between the top 10% and the bottom 10%. And right away, that was one of the things that Brad reinforced to me, that it's really important that we don't get stuck just on what the middle is, what the average is, because we really need to be looking at those percentiles to really gauge where progress can be made and what some of the opportunities are within each of those categories. And I like how Chris Hostetler at National Pork Board put it one time when we were working on a story. He said, the top 10% gives us a gauge for what is attainable, and the bottom 10% gives us a gauge for the amount of progress that needs to be made. And so, Brad, tell us, why do you guys track the percentiles, and why do you feel like that's of value to producers?
Well, I don't like to be average, and I think a lot of producers don't want to be average. I mean, the pork industry is a very competitive business. Part of the reason why I love the pork industry is we're always striving to be better. We're always striving to improve. And looking at average doesn't tell the whole story. So from a data standpoint, you could easily look at a finished mortality and say, oh, the averages, or excuse me, wean to finish would be like a 5.78%. Okay. But then what is the opportunity? Or if things are really good, and I'm thinking from a producer standpoint, things are really good or really bad, like I've maybe got some really bad pigs. Well, how bad really was it? So when you're looking at your performance yourself, whether it's on the sour grill finish, look at those different metrics and say, well, where am I at from a total born perspective? If I'm a high health type farm and I'm, let's say, a pig less from a total born perspective, I'm having a lot of questions with my team, maybe some of the companies that I work with, to say, why am I not maximizing my total born opportunity? When it gets down to the grow finish side, feed is the biggest expense you have with feeding a grow finish animal. So when I'm looking at from a feed conversion standpoint, when you look at the Q2 2024 wean to finish feed conversion, from the top 10% feed conversion was a 2.44, where the bottom 10% of closeouts were a 2.79. That's over a 0.3 feed conversion difference. Well, there's some systems that from a feed conversion standpoint, a tenth would equal $1 million difference just from a tenth on the feed conversion. So when I'm looking at just from a feed conversion standpoint, how many of those groups do I have that are really bad? What are the other variables that go into it, like health, management, like Randy was saying a little bit ago, from out of feed occurrences, late term deads and mortality and stuff, but also from a nutritional standpoint, hey, what are we feeding these animals? Is it cost efficient? Are they growing well? And are they converting to feed well? And obviously there's a lot that goes into, having a top 10 closeout group, and health is a big part of it. But I think a lot of it is the human factor as well.
So one of the things that I think we all want to do is be able to take this data and really apply it to the farm. And so you guys were chosen to be a part of this because you all represent a different aspect of our industry and have some insights that, we think can be valuable to share with others. So what I'd like to have you guys do is to think of it, all of you, to think of a sow farm or a grow finish site, some kind of a story that can illustrate how these numbers and taking a look at the top 10 and the bottom 10, I know the good ones and bad ones. What's an example of how this report and this data can help people by taking a look at the percentiles and the opportunities that might be there? Randy, do you want to start us off?
Sure. I guess my example would be is about 5 years ago, we had 3 farms that had the owner had an independent contractor in those barns, and through a lot of coaching and trying, we just couldn't get that individual and his team to get the results we were looking for. And we worked with the owners of the barns, and we said, well, we'll go ahead and take on. We asked him to change the labor. He couldn't find anybody in the Champaign County, Illinois area that wanted to work with pigs, because there's not a whole lot of pigs in this area. So that's where we started our TN program. And we took those 3 farms from our top 10, from our bottom 10% producers to our top 10% producers. They're our best 3 farms in our entire system. And we did that with 3 TNs that really had no pig experience. Their pig experience was maybe 10 or 12 pigs in Mexico. And so it was not comparable to an 8,600 head wean to finish facility with all the latest and greatest technology. But with a lot of hard work and a lot of communication and dedication, we got those farms to be in the top 10%. And that is a lot. We work with Pipestone on the vet services on those barns, and with the help of their vet staff and their guidance and tutelage, we've been able to do some things that have really helped propelled and change some production standards and practices that have affected that customer's flow of pigs in other states even as well. So it's been a huge win for us. And just to see the numbers and the satisfaction of that owner of those pigs, instead of getting those nasty calls saying why these numbers where they're at, we kind of get a pat on the back every once in a while. So it's been a good success story for us.
Yeah, very motivational to have those targets to shoot for and then to be able to achieve it. Just seems like having those numbers really can build morale and get your team very excited. Cara,
Absolutely.
do you have an example to share?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think looking at sow lameness, right? I can think of farms that have really significant issues with sow lameness, and they would be in that category closer to that 15, 16, 17% mortality. And then other farms that are in the 7%. And so when I look at those farms, I think one of the big differences I see is proactive versus reactive. So our farms with higher mortality, their caregivers are reactive. So, okay, we are treating a lot of animals for lameness. So we're getting them pulled out of the pen, we're getting them treated. Some were successful, some were not. The farms where I see really good mortality are the farms where they're extremely proactive. So they're looking at wean sows and determining who is going to be eligible to go into a pen, who is going to not be able to go into a pen. They're making really good calling decisions based on feet and legs and history of lameness. And so to me, it's all about kind of your reaction. I think we see the same thing in grow finish. I have some caregivers who call right away, hey, we've got diarrhea in the site. We're going to need to put them on an antibiotic. And that's great, but that's reactive. What I love more is caregivers that are calling and saying, hey, we had a pit fan out and I identified it. We got the pit fan back running. I'm concerned and I'm going to be keeping an eye on those pigs. And so I just think as people think through the differences, are you a proactive or are you a reactive producer?
Well, and I think you don't have to be a hog producer to take value from what you just said right there. That applies to a lot of areas in life, doesn't it? I was like, oh, I could think of ways I need to apply that in my life. Very good. Okay, how about you, Adam?
So the big thing with the top 10% versus the bottom 10% is, that top 10% really gives you the genetic potential of the animals that you're working with. And then the average definitely right in the middle between the two. But if you just compare yourself to the average all the time and you're in the bottom 10%, you're really not that far away. So it's like, yeah, we could be better, but we're fairly close. But when you compare that bottom 10% to the top 10%, there's such a wide range there. It's like, whoa, okay, guys, we've got the same genetics, very similar facilities. What is that top 10% doing that the bottom 10% is not? And most of the time, what we find out is it's the percent of execution. We have an amazing playbook, we have an amazing protocol book. And those farms that really execute that and are bought into that protocol, those farms are normally towards the top 10%. So getting that bottom 10% bought into the plan does not change, the percent of execution changes. When you can get a farm bought into that, it's pretty fun to see them take off. And then from the bottom 10 to the top 10, there's probably a dozen or 15 things that need to be worked on in a farm. But really focusing on one or two key items, something that you can see results very quickly. Let them show them that they can win. Let them see that they can win. And then once you get one or two things going really well, normally it trickles down like wildfire to catch on to the other things. And then the farms are, hey, what do we got to do to work on this? What do we need to do to get this one better? When you get to that mindset in a farm, it's really fun to see them go. But comparing that bottom 10 to the top 10, that really separates the okay farms from the world-class production farms.
That's a really good point. Brad, do you have anything you want to add? Example that you've seen?
Yeah, I was thinking back in my pre-MetaFarm days as a service person for Holden Farms in southern Minnesota. I'm just thinking of like two growers, two nursery barns, and the drastic difference between the two. So one, the good grower, let's just say, they were very much like, every time I was there visiting, they wanted to come with, they wanted to be able to walk through the barn with me. Just even walk into the barn outside, the weeds, the grass, everything's mowed, everything's well kept. You're walking into a clean office. You're then, showering through a nice clean shower, and then you're heading out to their office, which is nice and clean. And then everything's nice and organized. The paperwork's all there, and then you're heading out to the barn. The pen utilization's there. They're treating the pigs at the right time. They're marking the pigs. You can see different colors, right? They're using the antibiotics when they need to. Feeder adjustments are good, and they're wanting to know, like, one of the things I just loved was, like, I was taught by some great vets, swine vet center on how to. So I was lucky enough to be able to teach some of the growers that I worked with so that they could at least post some of those pigs and, maybe take a picture or send it to me and say, okay, what is it? Is it Haemophilus parasuis? Is it strep? Is there blood in the stomach from an ulcer potentially? Those that grower really wanted to be better and be proactive, kind of like Cara was talking about. Whereas one of the bottom end growers that I can think of, which was fun and challenging, was, I honestly could have written a book of excuses. There's an excuse for every reason why I can't do something, whether it's, lowering temperatures or taking out my deads or treating pigs. There was an excuse for everything. And whether we send good pigs or healthy pigs or poor pigs, the better grower, let's say, always consistently at the average or the top, where just the opposite with the bottom end growers. So.
Yeah. Well, I love hearing about examples that you guys see, but also the takeaways and how that's really made a difference, but also is motivating and challenging. And I think that's such a great point. Like comparing the bottom 10% to the average, as you were saying, Adam. That's really not what the gap is, right? And so I think it's great to be able to use these numbers. And I think that's one of the ways and the reasons that the pork industry is so progressive and always improving, is because we really are finding ways to use data and make data-driven decisions that result in more profitability or efficiency or progress, even in periods where the markets aren't going to let us be as profitable as we wish we were. So great insights, and I really appreciate your perspective there. I wanted to go back to one category that Cara brought up in an email earlier. She said, I think it was really neat that he pulled out euthanized mortality as a separate category. And Cara, I wanted to see if you could share why you think that's so valuable and how that can help producers to really take a look at that.
Yeah, so I think to me, mortality is not just mortality, right? There's a really big difference between if you actually euthanize that animal versus if they're found dead. And I just think that speaks to animal welfare and some improvements in animal welfare in our industry. I look at some of the other industries and they don't have some well-established rules like we do. We have the 2-day rule in the swine industry that Pork Board has been really clear with. It's in all of our trainings. Our producers follow it. And so I think the idea that we humanely euthanize animals, euthanized and what is not. And I think too, it's not the main driver, but as we see kind of this trend of increasing mortality, I think one thing that is driving some of that increase is we don't put the same animals on a truck that we used to. 10, 15 years ago, we would put sows on a truck that we wouldn't.
Cara lost signal there. But I think I follow where she was going. Was 10 or 15 years ago, if we could hold the tail of the sow and help get her on the truck, we would go ahead and put them on the truck. That has totally changed here, over the last 5 years, on, just sending really good quality cull sows as well. So with that, we have euthanized more sows on the farm versus putting them on the truck.
Yeah, Randy, any thoughts from your perspective and what you're seeing?
Yeah, I always try to coach my guys. If you wouldn't want your kid's 3rd grade class coming through your farm and looking in your hospital pen, then you don't want to see an animal in there that you wouldn't want a 3rd grade class to look at. So I think as an industry, we've gotten a lot better at that. And I utilize one of MetaFarms' mortality reports, and we looked at euthanized versus natural deaths as well, and try to track down some lameness issues. It's helped us dig into it, and it's prompted us to do some more in-depth diagnostics. I remember a few years back, we did an extreme in-depth lameness study and figured out we were a little deficient on some zinc from back in some decisions that we made back in 2014, when I believe during the PED era that zinc was taken out of a lot of diets, and something didn't get changed within our formulation. And so utilizing those reports and having those reports has been very beneficial. But just like Brad has said before, you gotta manage what you can't manage what you don't measure. And when you look at those measurements, you got to take an objective. All right, now that I've got the numbers, what am I going to do with it? So it's helped us make some pretty good decisions that have helped our customers and improved our euthanasia and policies, and also our back end mortality.
Well, I want to tie back into, in our first report, when we kind of took a look at 2023 and the takeaways there, one of the topics that we spent some time talking about was just the topic of labor. And so, Randy, I thought it was really neat, some of the things that you guys are doing with your new scoring system and your goals for your T and Visa employees. And I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about that and how it's working for you.
Yeah, it's just something I've implemented. It actually was a system that was kind of used when I worked with Brad at Holden Farms, and just a tangible numerical system. Here's our main areas we evaluate, where it's feed management, air environment, water management, health management, pen utilization. We assigned a score of 10 points for each one of those categories. And I use it strictly. I don't use it for my production partners. I use it for my TNs, and each one of those guys is assigned a site. And so I can go do a service report, and I set them a goal of, collectively as a team or as an individual, getting a score of 85 out of 100. So, feed management, we have a production manual that goes through all the categories of feed management, whether that's slide management, feeder settings, turning the waters on or off in the feeders, cleaning the feeders out. All of those things are in play with it. And if they pass all of those categories, they get 10 points. And what I try to reward them, I've told my guys, if you guys score collectively as a group over 85 in a month, we'll go out for lunch. This month, I'm going to take them to a Cardinals game here, or actually next month in August, take them to a Cardinals game. And then we can also utilize that maybe for in the future as a bonus plan, incentive plan, or I'll take into account those types of numbers, tangible numbers, when I'm doing annual reviews, and say, hey, if I don't remember every little detail about what happened in the barns over the past year, but I've got those numbers to go off of and look back does this person warrant an adjustment in salary or hourly pay? And it makes it easier for me to have that conversation with them. If there's an area that they need to work on, I can reference back and say, hey, you've really struggled with either ordering feed or managing your bins or running out of feed events. So this is, if you want to get more dollars per hour next year, you need to improve in this area. So still kind of in the early stages of it, but I think it's going to be extremely beneficial.
Well, I love that HR opportunity that it provides too, because man, it's performance review time for us. And they were just talking about how many reviews they need to get through and one-on-ones. And that's kind of clunky, and it is hard to keep everything straight. So I love that gives them kind of a measuring stick too, that they can take a look at as well as you. So it's so many good takeaways there. And Adam, you said that you guys do some pretty fun things in the summertime too. So what do you do to kind of build morale and invest in your employees during the year?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw the grill in the back of my truck, and myself and then my boss and our HR director, we're all gonna head to a farm. Not at the farm, but maybe a park or somewhere nearby that the employees have designated to have a little cookout and social hour, and just spend an afternoon together, cooking, telling lies, telling stories, inviting everybody's families, and just really having some team building and some social time outside of work. And then for some team building exercises, we haven't got this one nailed down yet, but maybe we're looking at possible escape room, or I don't know, something like that. Anything that the team's got to work together to achieve a common goal, totally outside of pigs, away from the farm. So we're looking forward to that. I think that'll be fun. The grill always goes well. People really enjoy having a cookout and just getting to know each other on a more personal level. than just professional in the farm.
So valuable. And I find that on those escape rooms and things like that, it often reveals aspects of people's character that you may not get to see in a certain environment. And so, good or bad, right? Like we all, but it's a fun way to learn more about people, but also maybe uncover some talents that people have that could be valuable in their job too, that you're just not utilizing because you didn't know they had that particular, strength or talent. So I love hearing those kinds of stories, and I think it's a great way. I think it's always good for us to keep sharing those and give each other ideas, because it's fun to be able to mix things up, and not only for you guys too, but also for your teams. Cara, you're back. Sorry we lost you for a second. If you can't tell, she's on the road and remote today, tuning in, and we really appreciate you doing that. But we were tying back into some of the topics we discussed last time that we felt like were really important. Barns that have moved to be Prop 12 compliant have had to make production changes that have created some challenges that we need to address. Talk to us a little bit about an update on some of the projects that you guys have going on in barns right now to address those challenges.
Yeah, so we've got a couple different projects going on. So one of the great things about interns is it feels like we can get so much more done. And so we've got interns looking at some behavior studies where we're looking at in stanchions, do sows go to the same stanchions every day? What about in ESF? Do they go through the ESF feeders at the same time? Where do they lay? Do they lay with the same groups of sows? We've got one intern doing a project where we've tried using this kind of fiber product that we put in the pen at mixing. And then we're looking at post-mixing lesions and lameness and trying to understand, are we able to reduce lameness? Probably the project I'm most excited about is some rubber flooring that we've installed at a farm. And typically all of the rubber flooring that we've tried prior to this has gotten eaten up by the sows, but this so far is really working. And we think it's providing pretty good comfort for sows and reducing the number of lame sows and then mortality. And so I think some very exciting things coming down the pipeline, especially in relationship to sow housing.
Well, I hope that you'll keep me posted on that so we can make sure to cover some of that when it's available. It sounds really interesting. And, there's so many great takeaways from our conversation today. As we get ready to wrap things up, I just wanted to give you each a chance to share some positive from the report that you think people can build on as they look towards the future from your vantage point in the industry. Randy, do you want to start us out?
Yeah, looking at Brad's report, the thing that sticks out to me the most, looking at the top 10% column there on wean to finish, is the 16-pound average start weight. So what's exciting for me and my team is we've got some of our clients that we work with or customers that are working towards getting an older wean age. We've got 3 barns that are going to be coming online this winter that are going to be getting some pigs from a different farm that's going to be high health, older wean age, larger wean weight. So I think it's going to really push our team to see what we can do with a bigger, healthier pig and see if we can get those farms. My goal is to show my team these numbers and say, this is the standard. This is where we need to be. And I don't think we're far off from it today. And I think it'll be a good challenge to see if we can get there. So that's my take home.
Great. How about you, Adam?
Yeah, the increase in total born continues to be fascinating. We have no chance of weaning a pig until they're born first. So the hard work really is getting that total born. Adds a whole lot of other challenges to us. Making sure we get those pigs weaned. Doesn't do us any good to have more pigs, but the same mortality. But starting off with a bigger number of pigs to work with, that's pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Brad?
I probably will say when I look at the numbers, I'm actually thinking kind of into Q3 already. August of 2023 was the highest sow mortality month for 2023. We had a lot of hot weather here in the Midwest and saw, unfortunately, a lot of high death losses due to the heat. I look and I start thinking about market weights. With the heat, weights are going to start going down. Making sure that I'm making sure from sow and grow finish that my ventilation is set up properly. I've got my cool cells working. I got my fans working. I've got my trailers working with the sprayers, and making sure that if I'm a producer, that I'm very well prepared in all aspects for this hot weather that we're in the middle of right now, and will continue for a little while.
Very good reminders. And Cara?
Yeah, so I don't know how much you guys heard when I was talking about the difference between euthanized sows and dead sows, but to me, that's really encouraging that we're breaking that out as an industry and that we're really looking at that, because I think that that's really important. And it helps tell the story of animal welfare. So I think we're trying to give these pigs a good life, and being able to split out mortality and not just beat ourselves up all the time. Some mortality is appropriate mortality. It is pigs that we did the absolute right thing by providing relief from pain and suffering by euthanizing an animal. So I hate to end on kind of a sad note like that, but I do think that's a really positive thing, and a really positive thing for our industry.
Well, I appreciate that. And I thank you for coming back to that. Adam was filling in a little bit for you while you were trying to go off on your train of thought there. And I think he did a great job of that. But, I just want to say once again, thank you guys for taking time to share with us today, and to give your insights to others. We really appreciate it. And I just want to thank all of you for tuning in to the State of the Pork Industry Report, hosted by Farm Journal's Pork and brought to you by Neogen. We'd really love to hear from you about what topics that you'd like to see us discuss next time. So don't hesitate to reach out to any of us with your ideas, and we'll be sure to try to work those in the future. Stay connected with us at porkbusiness.com, and we'll talk to you again soon.